Okay, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Nah, I'm just playing around with the camera. Okay, so today we'll be unboxing the Gigabyte 880GM-UD2H. So this is a sticker. That's okay though. It's 6-core CPU ready. Out of the box, it's part of AMD's brand new 800 series chipsets. So the 880G is the replacement for the 785G. That means it has onboard video as well as excellent performance, support for all the latest CPUs, all that good stuff, but you're going to be missing little things like, say, for example, crossfire support because it's not designed to be an extreme gaming platform. That said, you do have a lot of the other Gigabyte benefits with this board. You've got Ultra Durable 3 Classic, whatever that means. So that means you got a 2-ounce copper PCB, 50,000 hour Japanese solid caps, as well as dual BIOS. It has a 3-year warranty in US and Canada, and it features their easy energy saving. Let's move around to the back. Did I already mention it has support for the Phenom 2X6? I think I did, but either way, it's all good. This is just more details on the back about the motherboard itself. You got support for up to DDR3 1800 plus, so that's through overclocking. Then you have a 4+1 phase power design, and that pretty much covers the specifics. Okay. Oh yeah, we have lower EMI, so lower electromagnetic interference, I believe it stands for. That means just sort of less general electromagnetic junk going on out of this board. Did you know that that's what I/O shields are for? It's to stop electromagnetic like radiation from coming out the back of the PC where you have a completely open gap. That's why all the PCI slots and the I/O shield is covered with metal. There you go, you learned something today, unless you already knew. So it has an I/O shield, it has a Dolby Home Theater sticker, it has 2 SATA cables, one of which is right angle and one of which is straight, as well as an IDE cable. Personally, I'd probably rather see 4 SATA cables included, but a lot of people are still using IDE DVD drives, so that's what this is great for. You got a couple hard drives, you got a DVD drive, you're covered. Next we have the user's manual, and inside we will find the 8 series utility DVD. Don't use this, download the latest off the Gigabyte website. And then you've got a full English user's manual covering a lot of BIOS settings, how to install drivers, how to plug in all of your front panel connectors, all of that good stuff. Then we have a multilingual installation guidebook that covers the physical installation in 300 million different languages. All right, then we have the motherboard itself. So it's a pretty bare accessory package, although it is a fairly low-ish end board, so that's sort of the expectation that you gotta have with a motherboard like this. So let's take this out. Now the one thing that I do see is missing, so this is not using the latest South Bridge from AMD. It is using the latest 800 series North Bridge, but it does not have support for SATA 3. So you're still running SATA 2, but honestly, if you're buying a value motherboard, you're probably not buying an SATA 3 SSD anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Cameraman's having a look at Gigabyte's pretty sweet looking North Bridge heatsink. I really, you know what? Now that North Bridges and South Bridges, for example this one, run so cool, I think it's great that some of the manufacturers are taking an opportunity to make it more of a design element rather than just focused on, you know, oh, here's a heatsink, here's some fins. It cools it really good. Because the reality of it is, AMD's chipsets run so cool, you could probably put this heatsink on that chipset and no heatsink on this chipset, and the board would probably run just fine with a little bit of airflow. But instead, Gigabyte spends a couple bucks, they put a nice heatsink on it, it looks cool, they put like a turbo 3D thing on it, that's pretty cool too. Why don't we have a look at the layout of the board before I just start rambling here. So up at the top left, we have an 8-pin EPS connector, so that is going to be providing the power for your CPU. I'm surprised to see an 8-pin on a value board like this, but since you can install 6-pin CPUs and presumably you can overclock at least a little bit on a board like this, it's great to see that. Guess the CPU is going to be pulling some real power. Next, you've got your 2 sets of dual channel DDR3 support, so that's up to, I believe, 16 gigs if I recall correctly, and 4 gig DIMMs are finally getting reasonably priced, so you could actually load this up with 6 cores and 16 DIMMs in a micro ATX form factor. I mean, wow, even a couple years ago that was like impossible to fathom. Next, we've got a floppy connector as well as an IDE connector. Your 24-pin power is along the right-hand edge of the board, exactly where it belongs. And then down at the bottom right, it seems like an odd number. We've got 5 SATA 2 ports. It's not that odd because the 6th SATA 2 port running off this chipset is actually at the back of the board. You got 3 USB 2.0 headers, your front panel headers, and then as far as the layout of the slots goes, you got one PCIe 1X slot, a 16X slot, and then 2 PCIe slots. So if you're running a dual slot graphics card, it'll sit right here in the middle, and then you'll have access to one PCI slot and one PCIe 1X slot. Now, one thing I do want to comment on in this board is that if you are running a dual slot graphics card, it's going to take up this whole chunk of the board. It's going to cover up 3 of your SATA slots. I would have liked to see that a little bit better thought out, but you can get around this when you're ordering this board. Just make sure you order at least one right angle SATA cable so that you can just kind of put it in under the video card and you can get access to it that way. All right, let's move around to the back of the motherboard where we've got all of our I/O connections. So first of all, we've got a PS2 keyboard mouse combo port. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 USB 2.0 ports. Then we have DVI, HDMI, and VGA out, very handy. We have optical audio out, FireWire, eSATA, so that's that 6th connector I was talking about. Then we've got Gigabit Ethernet and 7.1 audio. Thank you for checking out my unboxing of the Phenom X6 Ready 880GM-UD2H.